lights on, pretending we don't know. But the forest is silent, the river's running low, and the flame on our plates is the strongest fire we throw. Put out the fire, put out the fire. Echoes and rise, this is your hour. 7 boundaries broken, the earth pushed past the line. Climate, land, species, fresh water, chemicals, nutrients, oceans in decline. Not danger, disaster in real time. Put out the fire, ooh, put out the fire. Metafoodians rise, this is your power. And here in India, one truth stands the same. Milk is not just milk, dairy feeds the flame. Cows and methane, fields and forests turn to grain. Politics, culture, carbon, all wired to the same chain. Every cup of curd is heat in the air, every block of butter is a forest repair. It's not a small habit, it's a planetary affair. Put out the fire, put out the fire. Echoes and rise, this is our hour. Energy fixes half the hurt, Dr. Rao made that clear. But food fixes the other half, the half that's burning here. Change the plate, change the land, change the future's atmosphere. Put out the fire, put out the fire. Metafoodians unite, this is your choir. Every millet, every fruit, every sapseed, every bean is water on the wildfire of a world we've never seen. Every oil-free bite is a river turning clean. This is not perfection, it's direction. Not pressure, but protection. A week of choices can cool a generation. A company's courage can ignite a nation. Put out the fire, ooh, put out the fire. Echoes and rise, this is your hour. Metafoodians unite, Metafoodians ignite, sharing love in the metazone, lighting the path to a cooler home. Put out the fire, ooh, put out the fire. Together we rise, together we inspire.
Welcome to the Planet B podcast, where truth, transformation, and faith converge. Join us as we flip the script on ecological despair, guided by Dr. Sailesh Rao's vision for a compassionate, rewilded vegan world. Let's begin the journey to the greatest transformation in human history.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to episode 13 of the Planet B podcast. Today, we'll take a deep dive into how did we heat the climate. Dr. Rao, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
I love Rumi's poetry. So this episode, let's start with your opening quote by Rumi.
You're not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop. The more we assume responsibility for our actions, the more we realize that everything stems from us. So each one of us can expand our consciousness to include everything in the universe as your responsibility.
So beautiful.
That's what it means, yeah.
So Dr. Rao, The last couple episodes we've talked about this. It's been a deep dive into human history, which has been so fascinating, and looking into the ice ages and the changes and fluctuations in Earth's temperature over time.
Right.
But through the data that you show in chapter 13, something around 6,000 years ago seemed to level out the temperatures. Could you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's straight from the ice core record. Scientists have drilled through the ice in Greenland and in West Antarctica, and they have sliced it layer by layer to analyze the air bubbles that are trapped in the ice. And that's how we know what the temperature was, and we know what the CO2 levels were year by year. And that shows that until about 6,000 years ago, the CO2 levels in the atmosphere matched what was happening in the previous interglacial period, 3 ice ages ago.
Wow.
So it closely corresponds to what was happening 3 ice ages ago. And then 6,000 years ago, you see a deviation. So instead of going down, it starts flattening out and going up a bit. Okay. And that's what William Ruddiman calls the human effect. This is what our ancestors did when they started burning down forests, clearing land, and growing crops for agriculture. So you see that signature in the CO2, the carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere, and you also see it in the methane levels in the atmosphere. And the methane is because of extensive rice cultivation and also because of the use of cows and buffaloes in agriculture. And because these cows and buffaloes emit methane, any cud-chewing animal does that.
Wow, so it all goes back to the agricultural revolution then.
Correct. So the agricultural revolution clearly had an impact on stabilizing the climate or the planet during the Holocene era, because that's the only explanation we can come up with for why it took such a major deviation. Instead of going down to another glaciation, the Earth stabilized and stayed in the Holocene for the last 10,000 years. Then you see over the last 200 years, the CO2 levels shooting up, and then the methane levels also shooting up in the atmosphere. So that is the Industrial Revolution. And that emitted a lot of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. And as a result of that, the temperature has gone up by 1.5 degrees Celsius from pre-industrial levels. When William Ruddiman projects it out, he is assuming that we will continue doing what we are doing. And so then the temperature goes up to about 3 or 4 degrees Celsius in his projection. And then he assumes that we'll all die off. It's like, we are mindlessly continuing our industrial revolution until we die off. And then the temperature comes down in his projection and goes back into glaciation. Now, that was the only projection he did. So I am claiming that there are 3 possibilities, not just one. First possibility is, of course, what he said, which is we mindlessly continue the Industrial Revolution, mindlessly kill everything off, and then the Earth goes back to glaciation. That's one possibility. The second possibility is we continue mindlessly heating up the climate, and the Earth does not go back to glaciation after we die off, but just goes off into, the Venus syndrome, which is quite possible because basically when you increase the temperature so fast, literally within 200 years, we've increased it by 3 to 4 degrees Celsius. If you do that, that's like the human body having a fever.
Right.
Okay. If you have a fever of 3 to 4 degrees Celsius, you can die. And so once you die, it can become the Venus syndrome.
Yeah.
Meaning literally the temperature can keep increasing until it reaches 400 degrees Celsius on the surface. Right? And all life could die. When it happens very slowly, over say thousands of years, the Earth has the possibility of adapting to it. When you do it very quickly, it's a fever.
which we're doing now very, very quickly.
Exactly. Yeah, we are doing it very, very quickly. And that's why, when people say that the Earth's temperature used to be this high before, so what is the problem? I'm saying, yes, it used to be this way before, but it took
Right.
thousands of years to get there. And in which case, the Earth has the ability to adapt to that. But when it happens very, very quickly, it cannot adapt so quickly, right? So that's the second possibility, that you increase the temperature and then the Earth just dies. And the third possibility is that we consciously start cooling as opposed to continuing to heat. Why?
Right.
Because we know that it's better for us, it's better for all life. So we consciously start cooling, and then we stabilize the temperature at the stable state, which is the thermostat setting from 200 years ago, and maintain it there for as long as we want. So that is the transformation from climate heating to climate healing that I'm talking about, right? And that requires a system transformation of the human engineered systems of the planet.
I like choice number 3 the best, I think.
Yeah. So I say, at the end, I am only going to consider choice number 3. I'm not going to consider choice number 1 and choice number 2. It makes zero sense that we would continue to do that. Yeah.
It's interesting because it seems like, this is kind of why possibly that you chose the title of your book, There Is a Planet B, is because most of the people in this field are only thinking about number 1 and 2.
Right. Yeah. Because they cannot imagine a different human engineered system.
Right.
So they're just assuming that we are stuck in the system, and that's all we know to do. Now, all human engineered systems that we have today, we inherited. We didn't design any of those. We kind of tweaked them a bit here and there, but mostly we inherited them. So they're all organic, right? They were not designed. And now we have the possibility of designing human engineered systems that work for all of us. And this is why it's important to go through the foundations. It's important to go through, how do you stabilize systems? How do you maintain them so that they stay aligned with nature?
Yeah.
Right? So our generation has the responsibility to re-engineer human engineered systems so that they are stable.
One of the things that we're all trying to learn how to do better is to
Yeah. You don't know what inspires people. So we are thinking of stories, we're thinking of, well, we tried documentaries, they only reach the intellectuals. You don't go beyond that. And you have to now think of stories that would inspire faith leaders. I watched the video of this Jain leader who created an event to tell his followers to go vegan. Okay? Because he's gone vegan. So first he convinced himself that he has to do it. And then to convince his followers, he created an event in which he had one spiritual leader, a medical doctor, to explain that it's healthy to do this. And then the third person he had was an athlete, a Jain athlete. So you have to find people within the community who are, a medical doctor, an athlete, a spiritual leader, and finally a young social media influencer. So
like a panel, kind of like a holistic panel.
It's a holistic panel. It covers all aspects of this transformation. Okay. And then he also had a smorgasbord of delicious vegan food that he said is available in the cafeteria today if you go eat it, right? And he invited people to come up and taste it. And then he also created a website addressing all frequently asked questions.
That's wonderful.
It's a fairly comprehensive event he created. It's very well thought out. And I thought that's a great way to bring a community along, an event like that. So every community can imagine doing something like that. And that's how I think the message can spread. that we have to move out of this climate heating phase to the climate healing phase. And as I said, climate is just number 4 of 7. So it's
Yep.
literally healing all 7 planetary boundary transgressions. And that's what you will do when you try to heal the climate holistically.
Yeah, it's very interesting. What fascinates me so much about your book is when you go through all of the human history and the 9 planetary boundaries, and it's so clear that vegan is a solution. I know we'll get to that in the following chapters. I think we're all discovering better ways to communicate that message because it's like you said, everyone is coming at it from a different angle. So it's helping people unite around this Planet B concept.
Right. Planet B is a comprehensive systems engineering framework around veganism. Okay. That's the way I see it. Veganism is the fundamental philosophical change that needs to happen. And it's really just implementing the scriptures of all the religions of the world. Okay. Because all the religions of the world are talking about compassion for all creation. So it's implementing those scriptures with integrity,
Right.
without putting escape clauses. Right? That's all it is.
Yeah. You're not adding any lines to it.
Right, right. You don't have to. Because we originally probably had to include all those escape clauses because we thought it was necessary to consume animals for our well-being. And now we know it's not true.
Right.
And this is why it was so important in the panel for that Jain leader to have a vegan athlete. So that he had someone there who climbed Mount Everest as a vegan. And he was building his body as a vegan.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very beautiful. So this is just a shorter episode. It was more into, how did we heat the climate? But I think it just ties into this moving forward. How will we work to reach more people with this message? Dr. Rao, would you like to share any final words for episode 13?
I want to tell you all that we are only going to focus on option number 3, which is how do we start cooling the climate right now and how do we start stabilizing it. And that's the rest of all the episodes are only about that. So please stay with us and come along and don't follow William Ruddiman's option number 1
So,
or the option number 2 that may happen.
oh, wonderful. Yes. It's an optimistic look in the solutions right here. So thank you so much, Dr. Rao. And episode 14 is really exciting. So episode 14 is how we use the earth, which the statistics are shocking. I think they're very important for people to know. So we hope everyone joins us for our following episode.
This has been a podcast from Planet B, where we stopped confusing convenience with necessity. If you haven't moved here yet, we thank you for visiting.
Just hold on a second. Let me adjust my lighting a bit.
I hope y'all enjoyed that. I thought that was wonderful. And I know some of you already have some questions because you put them in the chat. And I have a question too. And I want you to know about Saturday. We'll have more speakers after the podcast. Oh, here he is. All right. Welcome back.
Thank you. Is the lighting better now?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Well, now that I'm here, I have a question.
Sure.
I don't usually want to do this, but okay. You had the 4 myths, and if I remember correctly, the last one is about truth. And I've been thinking about, for years, about the regenerative ag And every couple of years, I think, oh my gosh, they're still going strong. Oh my gosh, now they've got it in universities. Oh my gosh, now there's, and it's this latest advertisement that I saw showed the people, they're very happy, and of course they are. They're out in the yard, they're gardening, there's sunshine, there's animals, so they're very happy. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about the regen and the truth or untruths about that. Thank you.
Yeah. So when you consider that, and because they show you, it's like a local optimization program. They do a local optimization and show you how you can actually raise animals and simultaneously green the area, right? That's the objective. But what you have to look at is the global picture. When you look at the global picture, they haven't changed the fact that for every 1 pound of food on your plate, you need to feed the animals at least 39 pounds of food. They haven't changed that. Okay. In fact, if they're raising cows, they're probably using 120 pounds for every 1 pound of food. Because that's the ratio for beef. Okay. So now if that is still staying the same, and you are allowing greening of the land, the odds are you're using more land to produce the same amount of food. Okay. So you haven't changed the big picture, but locally you have made it look better. And you're sort of convincing yourself that you're now in a sustainable system. But it's not true. There are lots of scientific papers now on this now. So it's the academics are no longer buying it, Of course, there is money in grants. If someone is offering a grant, some academic is going to say, okay, I'll apply for that and get my millions for doing nothing. Yeah. So that's the story of regenerative agriculture. I mean, regenerative agriculture is good in the long run for plant-based agriculture. You need to create that. You're muted, Rebecca.
So there's a lot of good things in the permaculture
Yeah,
but it's just the belief that the animals are part of the solution. Using the
correct.
animals. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Eating the animals. I mean, if you leave the animals alone, I don't mind,
Right.
But eating them.
If you're rescuing them, all right. But if you're producing them, breeding them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Go ahead, Bram.
Yeah, I had a question about what people to address to our message of veganism. I was talking with Ray. We talked a little bit about baby boomers and Generation X and Generation Y. All these 15-year periods. But that they are all so very different. The last period, I think, is 0 to 12, so they are all AI already. People.
The AI generation, I see.
Yeah. So which one we have to be careful which one we should base it on or to look at it? Do you have any suggestions of where to do that?
Yeah. Well, we need to bring all of them along. So which is why I look at, how do I tailor my presentation to different generations? And to the AI generation, as we call them today, I usually have a slide saying, I asked ChatGPT, given the state of human knowledge, should everybody go vegan? And it said yes, and it gave all the reasons why everybody should go vegan. And that convinced them. I mean, that convinces them more than anything else. They say, AI said that to us. Say, so they were going to go try it again. I said, go try it out with ChatGPT. So as I said, it's the tailoring the message, different message to different opportunities that you get. So my algorithm is to try and say yes to every opportunity that comes my way. And then figure out how am I going to tailor my message to that.
Yeah, maybe most efficient would be to get under the people you are familiar with, the
Correct.
same age. So we have
Correct.
each age we have to find new people from young to old.
Correct. Yeah.
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 So I think for us, maybe I was thinking the Unitarian churches or so would be, for me, probably good to attract, to talk to, and scientists. They are hard group to convince, but
No, it's actually this is a good time to talk to that group
yeah,
because so far they have been sold the story that by just changing the energy infrastructure, they can solve the problem. Okay, so this is why they were all made to focus on fossil fuels, and just substituting, electric cars and solar panels for that. And now, officially, they have pulled the rug out from under them.
yeah,
In fact, even the other day, President Trump was boasting that not a single windmill is going to be erected during his term. He was boasting about it, right? So, so these people, their outlet is no longer there. They thought that there was something happening that was going to make the world better, and that they were participating in it, and that outlet is gone. Whereas veganism is an outlet that's available to everybody at any time.
mhm, yeah,
So it's now I think the time is right to go back to them and say, hey, you really want to solve the problem? Here is a way to do it. And scientifically, it's actually the right way to do it. Just go
but
vegan first. Yeah.
should we concentrate on the early adopters or the next phase? Because the ones on the right side, they won't convince me anyway.
Yeah, they'll come along. Usually it's a process, right? So you're pulling those who are closest to the fence,
Yeah,
having them come over the fence, and then others will come and sit on the fence.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's how the movement grows.
Mhm. Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So the way I see it, the movement has been stalled for the last 5 years or 6 years, it's uh, it has been suppressed.
Yeah,
Okay, and you see active suppression going on. Even the latest um, dietary guidelines, it's a mess, and everybody knows it's a mess.
yeah. So that's a good point that everything is a mess now.
Right,
But,
right.
but we, yeah,
So, but I think in a way, it's good that there is a mess going on planet A, because it shows people that don't expect solutions to
yeah,
happen in planet A. You really have to start over and re-engineer systems.
yeah. What I would like to put in my talks is to say that there's a solution because people
It's a solution.
are
Yeah.
desperate. They don't think there is anything we can do. But
Yeah.
there is something very good to do, as you
And
have.
you have a powerful voice, Brahm, because you were one of the original modelers of climate science,
Yeah,
right? And so you have written textbooks on this. People look up to you.
mhm, yeah,
And when you say that you have found a solution, that will carry a lot more weight.
mhm,
Okay. So I encourage you to use that voice.
yeah, sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there.
Hello there.
I was really what? I had a lot of farmers that I used to call and talk to because I was in AFA. I don't know if anybody remembers that group, did lobbying. And basically, the government kept stalling on the farm bill, and we kept trying to pay for a lobbyist over and over, this little small group, and they outlasted us. It's like we just couldn't afford to keep that up anymore. It was kind of sad, but anyway, I was one of the people that talked to a bunch of farmers, and they would always talk about regenerative ag and how they wanted to do that kind of thing. But when they would talk about their idols in regenerative ag, and it was like Gabe Brown, you found out that like people like that, I wasn't sure if it was him or if it was another one, they were importing chicken feed. So they really, and they weren't counting it when it came to their numbers. and they'd send cows off to the West to fatten them up. And they'd be like, well, we grazed them. No, we had grazing cows that we carefully managed, properly managed, with the rotation and all of that. And I remember always, if I'd look closely at their pictures, I'd see spots where the cows had eaten stuff right down to the core. It was like, well, they didn't move it in time, didn't move them around in time. And they didn't mention the extra money for fences and for employees to keep moving those cows. And, it really wasn't, it wasn't as much a money maker. That a lot of them were making money by going out promoting it to other people, and they were all excited about it, But that's really how a lot of them were making their living, was the talks that they did, the paid talks. So I just thought I'd throw that in there.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, even one of the famous ones is Joel Salatin's farm, right? And
yeah, I remember the name. I think yeah, it's been a while, but I do remember that. But I had some other rather brash farmer. He was really getting mad in something with Nicholas Carter. I do know Nicholas D. Carter. Yeah, and Nicholas was just bringing the facts, and it was making, and the farmer would, you could see him and some guy from Michigan State who was working, just trying to help them out, and they were kind of like making up stories. You could see them not telling the truth. You could tell they weren't, and then they were getting all emotional and everything, and yelling at Nicholas, and he's just sitting. And of course, they saw him as a city slicker, and and how elite he was, and it was just funny. But those battles, it's like, it's just crazy, the battles that we get into that we don't intend to get into. We think everybody's going to just believe what we say. Then it's just, of course they can listen to how smart this is. So yeah, it might still be a challenge, but we're up to it.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Bob.
Dr. Rao,
Yeah.
this morning somebody asked about the impact of dairy on heating the planet, since that's this chapter. And I wonder if you wouldn't mind saying, because that was pretty powerful this morning.
Oh, dairy is the foundation for holding up the animal agriculture industry. Because without dairy, there is no cheap beef, or there is no cheap leather. The dairy consumers are subsidizing the beef industry and the leather industry by paying for the upkeep of the cow on a daily basis. And if the dairy consumers stop, the entire system falls apart, because there is no more cheap beef, there is no more cheap leather, and you have to raise the cow just to get the skin out of her, and all beef will be as expensive as steak, right? And same with eggs. The egg industry holds up the chicken industry, the poultry industry, because without eggs, there is no cheap chicken nuggets. Okay, so you'll have to pay like chicken breasts for everything. So everything becomes expensive. The egg consumers are subsidizing the chicken nugget industry. So if you want to undercut fast food industries like Burger King and McDonald's, stop consuming dairy. That's it. Dairy and eggs. And you'll pull that, the subsidies out from under them.
Well, I remember. Oh, go ahead.
No. Then also, dairy is extremely unhealthy these days because in the past, people had used dairy as medicine. And these are all, empirical observations. If you give a little bit of dairy to someone, it improves, and probably they had a vitamin B12 deficiency or whatever, and it improves people. And so they had all these rituals and festivals where you make sweets out of dairy and you distribute it to everybody. And the idea was that everybody got a little bit of dairy once in a while. Okay. So that's a medicinal thing. And that was thousands of years ago. Okay. If I look at the circumstances today, it's no longer treated as medicine, it's treated as food. Okay. So anything that you consume in excess becomes poison. It's not good for you. What used to be medicine is now being treated as food. And this is the lactation secretions of a mammal who is 5 times our size, her milk is designed to make her baby grow from calf to cow in 18 months,
Right.
whereas we grow from baby to adult in 18 years. So it's a fluid that's designed to make our body grow 50 to 60 times faster than it ever needs to grow. So it cannot possibly be good food for us, okay? Logical, right? And it is marketed as food because it makes people sick. And so then the pharmaceutical industry can come and make money off of you. So we're all being sort of factory farmed into this system. And dairy is part of that. The foundational brainwashing that happens to children.
I don't remember how long ago it was, 5 or 10 years ago, when in California a whole dairy farm, not just a little farm, 80,000 cows. It was a lot. That's the number I recall. Were then killed because he lost money, and he explained that he tried to find homes for them, which in other words, well, they wouldn't last that long, but they had to be killed. And I wonder just how much it's going to take for the dairy industry to die before we start seeing that. And maybe we would have had it not been subsidized,
Right.
But I guess there are a lot of cows. I don't know how many there are in the dairy industry, but it's going to take a lot of us to stop consuming dairy.
Oh yeah, like it's 300 million odd, 360 million or something like that, the number of dairy cows on the planet.
Okay. So.
And it's heavily subsidized by governments, and the governments, first of all, let's understand they are on the side of corporation. They're not on your side. They're not trying to make you healthy. Okay? It's not their objective. Their objective is to keep the economy going. Okay? That's their primary objective. And so in that sense, they're on the side of the corporations. Now, if they can keep you healthy while keeping the economy growing, they don't mind that. But if there's a conflict, they always side with that side and not on our side. Okay? So we have to remember that. That's how all governments are around the world. Okay? And so promoting dairy becomes their primary objective. They do that. They promote dairy to children. They promote dairy to everybody. They subsidize dairy because and if that fails, the entire thing collapses. The system collapses, right? So for system stability, that needs to be supported. And so this is why for Planet B, you have to basically, wean people off dairy first. And then it becomes easy for us to build Planet B.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Brittany.
I think it's so what I have to say is more of a commentary on some of it's questions about the questions and comments on the graphs. Like I was seeing, it's kind of hard to connect the diagrams that you have. So there's this one where it's like the climate heating phase versus climate healing phase that you had, whereas over time with the curves. But then there's this diagram I'll put in the chat where it has a climate regulating phase, and I didn't see that in your diagram. So I didn't even know what that would look like. I presume it'd just be kind of flat because it's already finished. But it's
Right.
hard to connect one to another. You know what I'm saying, right?
Right, right.
Yeah. And then I was saying the part about the rice being like a top contributor for methane, not just the cows.
Right.
From my research, I know it's not really about the rice. Sometimes rice cultivation will not have any methane emissions. I heard it's more like the methanogens at the bottom, especially when you do I guess, uh, the it's like when you use a lot of water
Right.
to raise the rice. I think there's ways where you can raise rice in fields rather than in water. I haven't
Right.
farmed rice. I don't quite know, but I think there's ways where we can grow a lot of rice without having to worry about methane too much. But if we're going it towards a vegan world, it's like, are people going to think about that, or are people going to stop short saying, well, we did enough, we got rid of the animals, so who cares about the emissions from rice? What do you think's going to happen then?
Well, I mean, in the climate regulating phase, you have to consider all of these and see what impact each one of these has. And you're right, you can grow rice without having to generate methane, because methane comes from the fact that the traditional way of growing rice is to flood the fields during monsoon and then let it grow with, in a flooded field. And there you'll get methanogenesis because there is no oxygen for the bacteria. It is underwater. And
Yeah,
so that's how methane is emitted from rice fields. But if you create a way of growing where you're drip irrigating the rice field, and people have done that too, then it doesn't get the same amount of methane
I've
from
also
rice.
seen people like grow it in the ocean too, like floating. I think that's a really good point where maybe with climate change, there's a whole lot of extreme weather conditions like the monsoons that maybe if it's towards a vegan world, you don't have to worry about all the monsoons as much. So maybe we're not going to have that problem because we're not going to have the extreme weather to, have floodplains and everything like that, right?
I mean, like my grandfather was a rice farmer, and so he used to first, build these bunds on land so that it captures the water in so lots of little squares where the water is captured, and and then he would plant the rice in that.
Yeah. I was
Right.
seeing how with climate change, there's going to be a lot more flooding of crops where a lot of crops are not going to quite make it. And so they have to turn it into all sorts of tricks and methods to get those crops to grow in these
Right.
sea level rises. So maybe that is what is causing the methanogen. So I kind of worry when people see, well, the vegan foods are causing a lot of the climate issues too. Why switch over? It's also a problem, while they're not seeing that maybe it's the animal agriculture that's causing the problems that are seen in the vegan foods. And if we just don't have the animal agriculture, we're not going to see those problems there. We're not going to see like floodplains with methanogens. We can have the rice without that, the methane emissions, and maybe some other crops. Yeah, what do you think about like how people see it and what the differences will be? Where maybe right now the vegan foods might be somewhat bad for the environment due to animal agriculture, and later on it's not.
Yeah. No, and vegan foods, you have ways of creating, producing them without um, these problems. Whereas there is nothing you can do about the um, 39-to-1 reduction that happens going through an animal to get food out of the animal. Okay, there's nothing you can do about that. So you're stuck because you have to go through there is something called uh, biology that you have to obey. It takes time. I mean, they're desperately trying to get the animals to grow fast, but to make them grow fast, you have to do all kinds of things, that you have to pump them with hormones, all kinds of chemicals, so that they retain the food that they're eating. You have to make them stand in one place because otherwise they use up energy moving. So it's horrible, okay, what's going on. So despite all that, we are now at 39-to-1. Okay,
Yeah,
so
that's
you can
pretty
imagine.
interesting.
Yeah, that they cannot address at all. So this is why that there is a solution. The solution is about eliminating animal agriculture altogether. And not only does it address the environmental issues, it addresses ethical issues, it addresses spiritual issues, it addresses everything. So, and that's what we need to keep emphasizing. It's a holistic solution,
Yeah, I
right?
see
And
what you're
then,
saying now. To not worry too much about the problems that are associated with vegan foods because
right,
it is artificially inflated due to animal agriculture, and just to go to, it's still going to be better even with a carnistic
right,
world. And so
right.
stick with it because it can be advanced to something that is not going to cause problems, whereas the animal agriculture is just not really going to be able to innovate. It tries a little here and there, but it's always going to be problematic in some way. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I
Absolutely.
get it now. It clicked.
Good.
So thank you.
Yeah, even the argument about almonds. I know you put something in the chat about almonds. Almonds are, they do a lot of transpiring of the water from the roots through the leaves, right? So if the almond tree was part of a forest, you would all be happy that the almond tree is there because it's doing a lot of the transpiration and therefore creating rainfall above the forest. But by creating monocultures of almond trees, we have to pour a lot of water. Otherwise, they don't grow. I mean, they don't produce the almonds, right? Because they need all that water to transpire. And this is why you get a water footprint that's large for almonds. If the almond tree were part of a forest, that water footprint is built into the forest itself. And actually, the almond tree will be the prized tree in the forest.
Yeah, the tree, the almonds in California, I believe, are not native. I heard there's also dry farming.
Yeah,
I
yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of industrial farming going on, which is a mess. So I calculated that if we bring back 3 trillion trees, right? We have to bring back three. If even 0.2% of those trees were almond trees, and you harvest the almonds from those, you can replace the entire dairy industry on the planet with almond milk. Just 0.2% of those trees. This is, there's no argument against this. There's absolutely no argument against this.
And that's just almonds. I think Barb had her hand up. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. No problem. Yeah.
Yeah, there was no problem. I was wondering about almonds too, and rice and all of that. So it was nice to get a good discussion about that. What I always notice is when I'm in the grocery store, it's like women are still going to feed their entire families with those big jugs of dairy milk, and it's like I'm just dying to tell them don't do that, for so many reasons. But I just, I don't have the guts. Plus, I'd probably get punched in the face or something in this town. But it's like I kept thinking, well, a lot of them do it because of the price. They think that it's cheaper, and it is, cheaper than the plant milks, and so they'll do that. And I've often thought, well, over years you're going to get sicker with the dairy milk. You definitely get sicker and age faster and have more inflammation and all of that, the arthritis, the works. But it's like I always feel like maybe saying going years down, it doesn't really convince them to stop. But I thought the other thing that I thought about price, though, and this is just something I've experienced, is when I drank dairy, I was like addicted to milk, and I drank skim milk because I was keeping the fat low. And but I would drink 3 to 6 glasses a day, and I could have had more. I just drank, and I just, I loved it. I couldn't get enough of it. And they do talk about the casomorphins kind of, it does something for you. But I don't do that with plant milk. And so I'll have enough just to cover my cereal, or put a little in my oatmeal or something like that. And yeah, I don't consume it like that at all. It's like you more sip it and you enjoy the flavor. So I was thinking in the long run, we're not drinking as much, so it might be a parity with the price. I didn't figure it out math wise, but it might. And I thought, well, that's one more. And I don't know if anybody else has any convincing things that they use to try to get people off dairy, except for the just switch to the left, grab the other one. And with the plant butter, the same thing. It's like the country crock plant butter looks just like the country crock, and all you have to do is grab the one with the plant butter. So I don't know if anybody has any suggestions, that I'm not thinking of, that could help people switch.
Yeah, offhand, just wearing t-shirts and caps with the message, just it tickles people. They get triggered a bit, right? That's one way. If you don't want to tell people right away, if you don't want to go and confront people, you're just wearing a t-shirt.
Yeah, that'll work. I've
Yeah,
got a bunch of t-shirts back there
right,
that I could do. Yeah,
right,
okay. All right.
right. So you become a walking billboard, against the dairy industry.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thanks.
Yeah, dairy is key. Here, I'm in India now, and India, of course, dairy is the main issue. If we can convince Indians to give up dairy, that would be huge. Yeah, it can actually literally shake the entire system. And what I noticed in India is that the whole food plant-based movement is picking up. So it's not just vegan; they're going straight to healthy whole plant foods. So and I cannot do this in the US. In Mumbai, I'm getting like a daily um, service that comes and brings me a whole food plant-based meal every day, and different dishes every day, and I'm enjoying it, while I'm writing my book.
I was thinking about when I was teaching and was listening to Dr. Greger and learning a lot about the plant-based foods. And somewhere in there, I learned that there's a connection between ear pain, and so I took a chance. Teachers are not supposed to be given medical advice, but I talked to one of the parents. Her son was always in and out with earaches and ear troubles, and I just said, look, you may just want to try it, just giving up the dairy and just seeing what happens. I can't advise you. So I was real careful about how I said it. And oh my gosh, she was so grateful to me for years. Was so grateful because his earaches cleared up.
Right.
And so I wonder about, students and acne. I've always heard chocolate and dairy. And so I wonder if that isn't a way. I mean, there may be some opportunities there also.
Right. Right. Absolutely. You'll see these symptoms of dairy caused problems everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And you can tell people, maybe you can try it out and see what happens.
Right.
Yeah. Michael has some questions in the chat. Let me see if I can address those.
Okay.
So the sacredness of the cow in Indian culture, in part connected to their thought in regard to ghee as a panacea. Actually, the sacredness of the cow is really it's really a proxy for the sacredness of all life. Okay. And it started off by saying, okay, treat the cow as sacred because we were using the cow. We try to be kind to the cow as she's being used. And then the ghee is part of the rituals because ghee was available. Right? And ghee represents the enlightenment. Okay, so there is a whole metaphor, of how the cow's milk is the fluid mind that has doubts about God, to which you add the thought of God, you curdle it, and you get butter, which is the solid mind that has no more doubts about God, and then you refine it to get ghee, which is the enlightened mind. So this is why they use ghee in the temples to light fires, because that's enlightenment. So you're praying for enlightenment. Okay, but enlightenment is seeing things as they are. And today there is nothing sacred about lighting fires with ghee, because it came from a cow that was enslaved. The conditions are horrible. It's no longer the same thing that used to happen to the cows thousands of years ago. And that ghee is basically fat from the milk, so which is full of dioxins and other toxins in the environment. So if you're using ghee to light your arti in the temples, that's a sign of unenlightened thinking. So this is why I say, today it has to be, you cannot use ghee in the temples anymore. You have to use coconut oil because it has the same symbolism. And then, that's we have to start updating our rituals with changing environmental circumstances, because the symbolism is no longer the same. So these are all the transformations that need to happen in temples in India. But it has to be logically explained to people. Yeah, okay. The question is, another question Michael had is, if we stop consuming dairy, wouldn't they just use tax dollars to subsidize the industry? Yes, they would. And they would, in fact, they've been doing that already, right? So they have such a surplus of cheese in the US I think the warehouses storing cheese is bigger than I've seen a graphic showing that it's bigger than the Congress and the White House put together. Yeah, the warehouses that are storing cheese today. And they keep this cheese stored in warehouses. This is how they store the excess milk. And they dump it after 2 years if they cannot unload it on other people. So they're already doing that. They're already doing that. And we just want them to have not just warehouse that's bigger than the Congress and the White House combined, but bigger than Washington, D.C. combined. At some point, they have to give up. They can't do that anymore, right? So we need to basically push that to the extreme where the subsidies cannot be tolerated anymore. It'll just collapse. The entire thing will go bankrupt. But imagine a system, in which everybody has gone vegan and the government is still subsidizing. You think that's even feasible? No. At some point, they have to follow what we are saying. Right? So it's not we as citizens have a lot of power, but we're not exercising it. Go ahead, Brown.
Yeah, is there still time for a question?
Sure, sure.
Okay. Yeah, one thing I don't understand is if you wouldn't eat any eggs, how would that affect the chickens industry?
Oh, the chicken nuggets. Yeah.
Yeah,
You won't get cheap chicken nuggets.
yeah.
Because the egg industry is subsidizing the chicken nugget industry. So this is why you can get, $1.99 6-piece nuggets or whatever it is that McDonald's offers, right? That's all bits and pieces of egg-laying hens. Mostly, that's what that comes from.
Interesting. So they subsidize from the chicken. The eggs get too expensive, more expensive than they could be.
Yeah. Eggs well, if you stop consuming eggs, they don't have the chickens that they can process into chicken nuggets. That's what I mean. Because what happens now is that after 18 months, the egg-laying hens are too weak to lay any more eggs. And so they become spent. So they get killed and turned into chicken nuggets.
Yeah.
Now the chicken breasts and things that they sell in the supermarkets, they come from broiler chickens, not egg-laying hens, and they're a completely different genetic breed altogether, and they're only 6 weeks old.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
They're literally cheaping like babies. They're being slaughtered.
Yeah, that's easy. Thank you.
So thank you all. As always, I find these discussions to be stimulating, and I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow again for episode 14.
Thank you, Dr. Rao, and everybody. Good night.
Thanks, Kat. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you. Good to see you all.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody. See you.
house is burning, but we're still sitting in the glow. Phones charged, lights on, pretending we don't know. But the forest is silent, the river's running low, and the flame on our plates is the strongest fire we throw. Put out the fire, put out the fire. Echoes and rise, this is your hour. 7 boundaries broken, the earth pushed past the line. Climate, land, species, fresh water, chemicals, nutrients, oceans in decline. Not danger, disaster in real time. Put out the fire, ooh, put out the fire. Metafoodians rise, this is your power. And here in India, one truth stands the same. Milk is not just milk, dairy feeds the flame. Cows and methane, fields and forests turn to grain. Politics, culture, carbon, all wired to the same chain. Every cup of curd is heat in the air, every block of butter is a forest repair. It's not a small habit, it's a planetary affair. Put out the fire, put out the fire. Echoes and rise, this is our hour. Energy fixes half the hurt, Dr. Rao made that clear. But food fixes the other half, the half that's burning here. Change the plate, change the land, change the future's atmosphere. Put out the fire, put out the fire. Metafoodians unite, this is your choir. Every millet, every fruit, every sapseed, every bean is water on the wildfire of a world we've never seen. Every oil-free bite is a river turning clean. This is not perfection, it's direction. Not pressure, but protection. A week of choices can cool a generation. A company's courage can ignite a nation. Put out the fire, ooh, put out the fire. Echoes and rise, this is your hour. Metafoodians unite, Metafoodians ignite, sharing love in the meta zone, light in the path to a cooler home. Put out the fire.